Welcome to the reading of the Sabbath School lesson for the second quarter of 2022. Welcome to lesson number 8 in the series on Genesis. It's titled The Promise, ready for teaching on May 21, and I'm Percy Harrold. Tuesday, May 17, the death of Sarah. In Genesis chapter 22, verse 23, we see the report of the birth of Rebekah, which anticipates the future marriage between Isaac and Rebekah, as we'll read about later in Genesis 24. Likewise, the report of the death and burial of Abraham's wife Sarah in Genesis 23 anticipates his future marriage with Keturah in Genesis chapter 25, verses 1 to 4. Read Genesis chapter 23. What function does the story of Sarah's death and burial play in the fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham? Genesis 23, beginning at verse 1. Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. So Sarah died in 𝐃𝐎𝐒, that is, Hebron, in the land of Canaan, and Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Then Abraham stood up from before his dead and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a foreigner and a visitor among you. Give me property for a burial place among you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my lord, you are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of your burial places. None of us will withhold from you his burial place, that you may bury your dead. Then Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, the sons of Heth, and he spoke with them, saying, If it is your wish that I bury my dead out of my sight, hear me, and meet with Ephron the son of Zohar for me, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah which he has, which is at the end of his field. Let him give it to me at the full price, as property for a burial place among you. Now Ephron dwelt among the sons of Heth, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the presence of the sons of Heth, all who entered at the gate of his city, saying, No, my lord, hear me. I give you the field and the cave that is in it. I give it to you in the presence of the sons of my people. I give it to you. Bury your dead. Then Abraham bowed himself down before the people of the land, and he spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying, If you will give it, please hear me. I will give you the money for the field. Take it from me, and I will bury my dead there. And Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, My lord, listen to me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? So bury your dead. And Abraham listened to Ephron, and Abraham weighed out the silver for Ephron, which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, currency of the merchants. So the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave which was in it, and all the trees that were in the field, which were within the surrounding borders, were deeded to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the sons of Heth, before all who went in at the gate of his city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. So the field and the cave that is in it were deeded to Abraham by the sons of Heth as property for a burial place. The mention of the death of Sarah after the story of the sacrifice of Isaac suggests that she might have been affected by this incident, which almost cost her son's life. In some way, Sarah also was involved in the test with her husband, just as she was in his travels and in his occasional lapses in faith, as we read in Genesis chapter 12, verses 11 to 13. And it came to pass, when he was close to entering Egypt, that he said to Sarai his wife, Indeed, I know that you are a woman of beautiful countenance. Therefore it will happen, when the Egyptians see thee, that they will say, This is his wife, and they will kill me. But they will let you live. Please say you are my sister, that it may be well with me for your sake, and that I may live because of you. Though we don't know how much Sarah knew about the incident after it occurred, we can infer that she probably learned of it eventually. Sarah was not the kind of woman who would keep quiet on matters that were of significance or were disturbing her, as we read in Genesis 16:3-5. Then Sarai, Abraham's wife, took Hagar her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to her husband Abraham to be his wife, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. So he went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress became despised in her eyes. Then Sarai said to Abram, "My wrong be upon you. I gave my maid into your embrace, and when she saw that she had conceived, I became despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between you and me." And in Genesis 18:15, but Sarah denied it, saying, "I did not laugh," for she was afraid. And he said, "No, but you did laugh." And Genesis 21:9, and Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, scoffing. Therefore she said to Abraham, "Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, namely with Isaac." His absence and her silence, and even the timing of her death following that dramatic event, say more about her relevance to the events than did her physical presence. The fact that Sarah's old age is mentioned in Genesis 23:1, Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. In echo to Abraham's old age, in Genesis 24:1, now Abraham was old, well advanced in years, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things, shows her importance to the story. In fact, Sarah is the only woman in the Old Testament of whom the number of her years is mentioned, which could show her involvement in the story even after the fact. The focus on the purchase of Sarah's burial place, which covers most of the chapter, rather than on her death, emphasizes the connection with the promised land. Already the specification that she died in the land of Canaan, in Genesis 23:2, underlines the rooting of Sarah's death in God's promise of the land. Sarah is the first of Abraham's clan to have died and been buried in the promised land. Abraham's concern about himself, a foreigner and a visitor, in verse 4, and his insistent argument with the sons of Heth show that Abraham is interested not just in acquiring a burial place. He is primarily concerned with settling in the land permanently. And so to finish the day, read Genesis chapter 23 and verse 6. What does this tell us about the kind of reputation Abraham had? Why is this important in understanding what he was used by the Lord to do? Genesis 23 verse 6. "Hear us, my Lord, you are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our burial places. None of us will withhold from you his burial place, that you may bury your dead." This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind, and It Is Written. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. Remember, God is always faithful.